football playoff rankings just dropped, and you guys have to check them out. We're bringing them to you right away. They literally just dropped, and we hopped in right away to record. Here we are. Let's get into the top 25. This is different than the AP top 25 poll. This is a little bit more legitimate in terms of who's actually making the college football playoffs. If you guys do enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe here at Utility Sports Plus for more great football content like this. Austin does so much work all year long. And we're not going to waste your time. Let's jump into it. Austin, Kansas at 25, Tulane at 24, Oklahoma State at 23, Utah at 22, K-State comes in at 21, UNC at 20, and the Fighting Irish Notre Dame at 19. We've got some teams here with quite a few blemishes on the roster. Tulane, the only one-loss team here from 25 to 19. What's your thoughts on these teams generically before we kind of get up into some of the bigger dogs?
Yeah, so real quick with Kansas, they end up taking the loss in that AP Top 25. They had dropped out entirely in the college football playoff ranking. They remain in that top 25. Oklahoma State suffered a drastic and dramatic loss to UCF. They were nowhere near competitive, turned over the football, and they got ran over by the UCF Knights. Moving on to Utah, suffer a tough loss. A lot of people had some anticipation for last week. They came out a little bit flat. They were not able to hang on and win that game. Kansas State, another team that continues to impress people just in totality the last couple of seasons, and this remains the same this year. North Carolina, keeps rolling here 8-2, and like you'd said, Notre Dame rounds out that 19th spot.
The end of the college football season is always so dramatic because each and every single week means so much. Let's jump into the top 18 here now. And remember, there's a lot of implications. A lot of these teams are not dead in the water yet, but they need a lot of things to go right for them to make it into that college football playoffs. Austin, we got Tennessee, Arizona, Iowa, and LSU here. They all have 3 losses besides the Hawkeyes, who are 8-2 currently. What do you think kind of about this grouping? The Tigers have had some awesome moments, the Wildcats as well. Hawkeyes, obviously, we know what they do, and the Tennessee Volunteers have been a really good college football program for a while now.
Yeah, and Tennessee is definitely weaker than they were last year. I think that it's been pretty evident when you lose that much talent on the perimeter to the NFL. Two starting wide receivers, you lose, your running back. It's a lot to really take on for a roster. Moving on to Arizona, they edge out Colorado in that one. Extending over to Iowa, they had a blowout victory against Rutgers. Their defense was phenomenal. They allowed 0 points in that one. Their offense, I think, only put up 22 or 23 points. This is very customary for the Iowa Hawkeyes moving forward. I don't expect the Hawkeyes to jump much further than this. If anything, I think we're going to see some regression in the rankings. And then LSU has a nice win against Florida. Jaden Daniels had his Heisman moment, was phenomenal through the air and on the ground. This guy's legit. This guy legitimately can win the Heisman. I firmly believe that. He has proven time and time again, this is a legit Heisman candidate. He had done something that no other college quarterback had ever done in terms of his combination of passing yards and rushing yards. I think he ran for almost 230 yards on the ground in addition to his 300 pass yards. He's phenomenal. He's so much fun to watch. We have to continue to keep tabs on LSU as they have an opportunity to keep jumping the rankings here.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have a chance to move up into that top 14, which is about what we're going to do right now. Let's take a look in here. What other teams are kind of on the brink of the top 10? We see the Sooners here at number 14. They make it in. Ole Miss at 13, Penn State at 12, and then Oregon State at 11. So we got the Beavers in there. They've obviously had a really great season. The Nittany Lions had a tough loss. Obviously, you've talked about James Franklin quite a bit, Austin. What's your thoughts on 14 to 11 here before we jump into the top 10?
Yeah, Oklahoma, I think when you look at Ole Miss, Oklahoma, those are some teams that a lot of people had some confidence in. They had been borderline in that top 10 area, but Oklahoma suffers they just continue to, not impress me overall. Don't get me wrong, Dillon Gabriel had a huge game, but I'm not super sold on them just yet. Ole Miss had a tough loss against Georgia. We will get to that in a little bit, but Junkins had a phenomenal game. He actually ran pretty well, with the circumstances, the way that they were. Penn State continues to struggle against, teams that are top 5, and then Oregon State as well. They continue to keep rolling. This is another program that we definitely have to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, now we get into the top 10 here, and this is really where you start to make your money, especially this time of the year. 1 or 2 losses from teams above you could escalate you into the college football playoff conversation. Here we are, Louisville at 10, 9-1. They've had a fantastic season for themselves. Missouri at 8-2, Alabama at 9-1. We're very used to seeing Alabama in the top 4 this time of year. Obviously, they kind of started out the year a little slow, didn't look like them typical selves. They found their groove a little bit, Austin. What's your thoughts on 10-8 here? And do you see any of these teams maybe making a jump by the end of the year?
I think I had highlighted earlier in the year that Alabama was going to continue to work from, that 13th or 14th spot that they had sat in at one point. They continue to progress. They're, inside that top 8. Missouri's a team that has surprised a lot of people, and rightfully so. I think when you look in totality of what they've been able to accomplish in the SEC within conference play, outside of conference play, they've been very good. In Louisville, picked up that Thursday night victory over Virginia, catapulting them here. I think overall they're fun to watch, they're explosive, and they make plays on defense when they need to.
If you guys are excited to see the top 7, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, Austin. Let's get into it right now. We're looking at the top 7 teams. We've got the Longhorns in here, and we've also got Oregon. The Ducks are at number 6, 2 9-1 programs. A lot of expectations, hope, and excitement for these two programs coming into the year. They find themselves right now on the outside looking in. Austin, what's your thoughts on these two teams?
Yeah, as a 9-1 program, you think you'd be right in that mix for the top 5. The unfortunate truth for these teams, they're just on the outside looking in, like you had mentioned. I think Texas has enough talent on this roster to potentially be a CFP team, but I think there's a lot of things that have to happen for these outside teams looking in, considering the teams above them, their records that they currently hold. This has been a wild year, having this many undefeated teams left to, conclude the year. Obviously, when we have conference championship time is going to deem a lot of, the success and the, seeding here into the CFP. But Oregon's been great. Texas has been great. A lot of credit to Dan Lanning there. Bo Nix was phenomenal once again. This guy just continues to win at a high level. And he is, once again, another guy that's in that consideration for the Heisman. And once again, Texas, though, they have some phenomenal talent on the field. I wouldn't be shocked that they were right in the mix at the end.
Remember, this poll here is completely different from the AP Top 25. And in the top 5, you're going to see some differences from what we've seen all year long in the AP Top 25. So, Austin, let's give the viewers what they want here. Let's jump into that top 5. The Washington Huskies, 10-0. Florida State, 10-0. They fall in 4-5. So you're seeing here now the Seminoles get a slight edge over the Huskies. Austin, do you first of all think that's the right call, especially with the implications between being a 4 seed versus a 5 seed?
Yeah, I mean, this is the entire difference in the world here is are you going to get a horse in the race? And Washington's been so good. Florida State's been so good. Jordan Travis, Michael Penix, 2 quarterbacks that have absolutely lit it up on the national stage. They've lit it up in non-conference games. This is exactly what you want to see when it comes to the end of the year. I think that you really have to consider Washington as a top 5 team. I don't know. I struggle with this one back and forth, but I think actually Washington should be at the number 4 slot right now.
I think there's going to be a real big game this weekend here. Washington actually takes on Oregon State. So that's a battle of 2 highly ranked teams that could go a long way in potentially bolstering them into that top 4 conversation. Again, this is must see down the stretch of the season. And Austin, here we are, the top 3. There's some massive changes in here as well. Michigan, Ohio State go 3-2 respectively. And then Georgia is the number 1 team here in the CFP rankings. First of all, Austin, I want to get your thoughts. Did they get this right? How is this different from the AP Top 25 poll? And do you think right now Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State are our top 4 teams?
Yeah, and once again, I think that Washington probably should cement themselves as that team in the 4 slot. But outside of that, though, I agree with Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia. I don't like the order of this. I think Michigan right now is playing like the best team in the country, as much as people don't want to admit to it. There's going to be a lot of people that have some tough feelings for the Wolverines, but in the fact of the matter is they have blown out teams. They've blown out good teams. They've blown out bad teams. They've beat, ranked opponents. Georgia had a very convincing win over Ole Miss, therefore giving them the nod. I mean, they absolutely smoked a borderline top 10 team and now have propelled themselves into that first slot. I'm kind of confused because, Michigan didn't get the same love. Obviously I'm not exactly sure how they determined this. I know people are loving Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State. That defense is legit, by the way. 100% is. These top three teams, I think, are a tier above the 4, 5, and 6, in my opinion. But I think that Michigan probably should have been 2 here. There's going to be some Ohio State fans that are angry about that statement. But from what I've seen so far, that's how I would rank it myself. But to me, having Georgia at number 1, I don't have a huge issue with it, considering their consistency. But to me, Michigan's the best team in the country right now.
I 100% love Austin's analysis there, specifically with how much of a believer he is in Kirby Smart and what George has done, especially the last couple of years. He's really been, I think, the lead voice, honestly, about how good of a football program Georgia has been and how good they were going to be a few years ago. He was foreshadowing all of that. And yet you hear him here expressing some confidence in some of these other teams, specifically here with Ohio State and Michigan. Shows how good college football is right now. So make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future college football updates. Make sure to leave a like. Let Austin know down in the comment section who you think the best college football playoff team is right now, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports Plus video.